training on Introduction to CSS. CSS, in other terms, is referred to as styling language. So, in full, it refers to styling. Okay. CSS refers to cascading. Style sheets. In other words, it refers to styling language. It's just used for applying fonts, for applying styles in an HTML file to make it more attractive to the eye and just make it look nice to the readers. Now, for the first thing, look at the side axes that are used in CSS. So we have selector, then property, then you have value. We can have an example for this. Let's say heading, then you can have, let's say, color, then you can have red. So now this is a selector, this is now the property, and this is now the value. You can have something else like font size. You can have font size, then you can just have 20px. Now this is now the selector, this is now the property, and this is now the value. So selector may be of different kinds, maybe of, like, say, paragraph. You can have body, you can have header, you can have footer. Then for the properties, you can have something else like text decoration, you can have something else like text shadow, you can have box shading, you can have something else, and many more of those. Then value, you'll have something else. You can have something else like body. You can have body. Then you can have text decoration. You can just have none. You can have something else, background color. You can have gray. So the other part we'll be looking at is how you can apply selectors in CSS. So you can have type selectors. Type selectors are just what you have just looked at, just less heading. You can have heading 1 up to heading 6. You can have heading 6 here. So you can have heading 6 or heading 5. You can apply to styles to it. Then the other part we'll be looking at is something else we call universal selectors. Universal selectors are just used for applying the style for the whole content. You just use the sign, then you just say, let's say, you can just say color, and you just say, let's say, purple. So that's called universal selectors. Now the other selectors we'll be looking at is something else we call class selectors. Class selectors are just used for applying style to a class attribute. Let's say we have a class, then you just name it class. menu, just have it as menu. You can just copy paste, you can just copy paste it, just copy paste into various paths. Then you just use the same name for the class. So when you want to apply a common style for those classes, you'll just use this one. You just write this one, let's say menu, then you just write, let's say color. You can write the color, you can write the background color, you can write the font size, write the font size, you can write the box, the height, the width, among other properties. Now those are called now the class selectors. The other selectors we'll be looking at is something else we call ID selectors. ID selector is just used for applying styles to our ID class or ID attribute. Let's say you have ID, you can have test menu, so you can copy paste, you can have the same class, or you can just have the same ID. Let's say you have that ID, this one is named test menu, so you can apply formatting to that ID. You can just have hash, you can just have menu, then you can apply color, you can apply the width, you can apply the height, you can have 100 px, you can have height, just write 2 px, you can have the color, just write it, just write. You can apply as many properties as you wish. So that's how you can write your ID selectors. So the other part we'll be looking at is something else we call child selectors. Whereby you can write, you can have, let's say, in between body tags, you can have a paragraph. Then you say, this is my paragraph. Now, when you're applying style for that paragraph, you can just have it as body. Then you just say after that, and just write. You can apply the color, you can apply the background color, you can apply the font family, font weight, you can apply the text decoration, among other properties. Now, the importance of using these child selectors, probably you may have defined body in your style, or you have styled your body part. So when you want to style your paragraph, now you can just use child selectors, whereby it will only select, or it will just style up the paragraph part. Now the last part we'll be looking at is something else we call attribute selectors. Attribute selectors is just used probably when you are creating your form, your HTML form. Let's say you have the input types, as we discussed in our previous tutorials. There are various input types in HTML. You may have input type for test area, you can have input type for test, for the password, for the email. You can have the input type for button, you can have input type for reset, among many other attributes. Let's say you want to apply the formatting, or you just want to apply your styles to your input type, which is test. You can just have input, you can just have input, then just write type, you can just write test, you can just have, you can write it as test. Okay, you're not using this one, now we're using that one. Then just write, you can just write color, you can write the color, you can have the fonts for the weight, you can have the font family, you can write, you can schedule your box, you can shift your, you can write the padding, you can write the margin, among many other properties. This one you can just have it as in pixel, which is given in pixel. So you can have the other part which is just like 10 pixel, and in this for weight you can just have it as bold. You can have the color as red, among other properties. So you can just apply your formatting into that one. So that's what you call attribute selectors. Now the other part of our tutorial today will be just using, we'll see how you can include, but before you see how you can include CSS codes into HTML file, we can first see how you can group, you can group your selectors with several roles. Remember, you can just use heading 1. You just separate them using commas. You can have heading 1, you can have heading 4, you can have the body, and then you can have the paragraph. Then you can just style them at once, so they will have the common or similar formatting. You can have the color, you can have the font size, so it will apply for the heading 1, for the heading 4, for the body pattern, and also for the paragraph. So that's how you group your selectors, using, whereby you separate by use of commas. You can also group your classes. You can also group your class attributes by use of this one. So let's say you have a class called menu, another one called language, you can have other called clock, you can have other called programming. Then you can just style your classes. So all these classes will have the similar formatting, So the other part we'll be looking next in our tutorial today is how you can include CSS code in your HTML file. There are 3 major ways that you can include your CSS code in your HTML file. For the first thing we'll just look at is called inline CSS. Inline CSS is whereby, let's say you say your paragraph is then you can include by use of style. Then you can just say color, let's say red. Then you can have, this is my paragraph. You can just go to your browser and see how it appears. So it says this is my paragraph. This is my paragraph. See, now it is appearing in red color. So you can apply as many formattings here. You can have the font weight. You can have the font weight. You can say bold. You can have background color. You can have it as green. So that's how you write. Let's refresh and see how it appears. You see now your text is in bold, and now your background color has been inserted, which is green. That's how you apply inline. Now this is what we call inline CSS. It is in the same line with your text or characters. So the other one we'll be looking at is what we call embedded CSS. So we have just discussed what we call inline CSS. Now embedded CSS, now we'll use style tags. We'll use style tags, which are just included, which are normally included in between your edit tags. Let's say you have style, just use style there. You can have, let's say for heading 1, then you can just have color into purple. Then you can have your font size to 40 px. Then now in your body part you can have your heading. Then just write, this is my heading. Now just go to your browser and refresh. Now you see, now this is my heading. It has a purple color. It has a font of 40. Now, so that's how you use your embedded CSS. Let's try it for class attributes. You can have a class. Let's name it as menu. You can have it as menu1. Can have it as menu1. You can just name this one as, let's say, menu2. Just menu2, and this was menu3. You can just go to here, then you just write, just to say you use that one, menu, then just write. You can just have the height as 100 px. You can have in as 100 px. You can have background color background color, you can have it as gray. Let's go to a browser and then refresh. Main one, you have and all those. Then you can just say in display, you can have it as block. You can have it as a block. Now, so now how it is appearing. You can have the border. You can have the border. Then in border we'll have, let's say, 1px solid. Just a solid black. So just go to your browser there, then you just refresh.